Former President Donald Trump shot in apparent assassination attempt. The air was thick with tension as the crowd gathered outside the venue where former President Donald Trump was scheduled to speak. Supporters and protesters alike had congregated, their emotions running high in anticipation of the controversial figure's appearance. Unbeknownst to all, the day would take a dark and unexpected turn. Trump arrived at the venue in his usual manner, flanked by a robust security detail. As he stepped out of his vehicle, waving to the crowd, the atmosphere crackled with energy. Cheers and jeers mingled in the air, creating a cacophony of sound that was both electrifying and unsettling. The former president, ever the showman, paused to soak in the moment, his smile unwavering despite the polarized reception. He moved towards the stage, shaking hands and nodding at familiar faces. His bodyguards were alert, eyes scanning the crowd for any potential threats. It was a routine they had perfected over years of service, but today, routine would be shattered by a sudden, violent act. As Trump took the stage, the noise level reached a fever pitch. He raised his hands to quiet the crowd, preparing to deliver his speech. Just as he opened his mouth to speak, a loud bang echoed through the venue. For a split second, time seemed to stand still. Then chaos erupted. The former president staggered, a look of shock and pain on his face. Blood blossomed on his suit, and he crumpled to the ground. Screams filled the air as people scrambled for cover. Security personnel rushed to Trump's side, their expressions a mix of urgency and fear. "Get him out of here," one of the agents barked, as they formed a protective barrier around the fallen leader. The crowd was in disarray, with many trying to flee the scene while others attempted to get closer, their phones held high to capture the moment. Amid the pandemonium, the assailant was quickly apprehended. A man in his late 30s, disheveled and wild-eyed, was wrestled to the ground by security and law enforcement officers. He offered little resistance, his gaze fixed on the stage where Trump had fallen. There was no immediate explanation for his actions, but the damage was done. Trump was rushed to a waiting ambulance, his condition critical. The motorcade sped through the city streets, sirens blaring, as the nation held its collective breath. News of the shooting spread like wildfire, dominating every news outlet and social media platform. Speculation and fear gripped the country as people anxiously awaited updates on the former president's condition. Inside the hospital, a team of top surgeons and medical professionals worked frantically to stabilize Trump. The bullet had caused significant damage, and the next few hours would be crucial. Outside, a media circus formed, reporters jostling for position to deliver the latest developments to a nation on edge. Back at the venue, investigators began piecing together the sequence of events. Witnesses were interviewed, and forensic teams combed the area for clues. The weapon used in the attack was recovered, a high-powered rifle that had been concealed in a guitar case. It was a chilling reminder of how meticulously planned the attack had been. As Trump lay in surgery, messages of support and condemnation poured in from around the globe. World leaders, political allies, and even some critics expressed their shock and sadness over the incident. The shooting transcended political lines, uniting people in their condemnation of violence. Hours passed with no word from the hospital. The nation waited, the tension palpable. Finally, a spokesperson emerged, their face drawn with fatigue. Former President Trump is out of surgery, they announced. He remains in critical condition, but the medical team is doing everything possible. The news provided a sliver of hope, but uncertainty still loomed. Security measures were intensified across the country, with authorities on high alert for any potential follow-up attacks. Public buildings, landmarks, and government offices saw an increased presence of law enforcement officers, and gatherings were closely monitored. The attack on Trump had sent shockwaves through the political landscape, raising questions about security protocols and the potential for political violence. Analysts and commentators debated the implications, while citizens grappled with their own fears and anxieties. In the days that followed, the investigation into the shooting progressed. The suspect, identified as David Reynolds, was found to have a history of mental illness and a deep-seated resentment towards Trump. His social media accounts were filled with rants and conspiracy theories, painting a picture of a troubled individual driven to a desperate act. Trump's family remained by his side, issuing statements of gratitude for the outpouring of support. "We are deeply touched by the prayers and well wishes from around the world," read a message from his daughter, Ivanka. "We ask for continued prayers and privacy during this difficult time." Public vigils were held across the country, with supporters lighting candles and holding signs that read, "Pray for Trump." The nation, despite its divisions, came together in a rare moment of unity, hoping for the former president's recovery. As the days turned into weeks, Trump's condition slowly stabilized. The medical team provided regular updates, cautiously optimistic about his chances of recovery. The road ahead would be long and arduous, but the former president had shown resilience in the face of adversity before. The shooting of Donald Trump was a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of unity in times of crisis. It was an event that would be etched in the nation's memory, a day when politics took a back seat to humanity, and the country rallied together in the hope of healing. Trump rushed to hospital after shooting incident. The air was thick with tension and anticipation as Donald Trump took the stage. The former president, ever the center of attention, was about to address a large crowd of supporters and critics. His speeches were always electrifying, polarizing, and deeply anticipated. However, this day would take a turn no one expected. As Trump began to speak, a loud crack rang out. For a moment, the crowd was frozen in disbelief. Then, chaos erupted. Trump staggered, a look of shock on his face, and collapsed to the ground. Blood spread rapidly across his suit, staining the once vibrant red tie. His security detail, trained for such emergencies, reacted instantly. They formed a human shield around him, their faces masks of grim determination. "Call an ambulance," one of the agents shouted into his earpiece. Some people tried to rush forward, either out of concern or to capture the moment on their phones, while others fled in terror. The scene was bedlam. Trump's bodyguards, with military precision, whisked him away from the stage to a waiting vehicle. Within moments, the ambulance arrived, sirens blaring and lights flashing. Trump was quickly transferred into the ambulance, surrounded by paramedics who began administering first aid. The doors slammed shut, and the vehicle tore off towards the nearest hospital, its destination already prearranged for emergencies. Inside the ambulance, the paramedics worked furiously. Trump was losing blood fast, and his condition was critical. They inserted an IV, administered pain relief, and did everything possible to stabilize him for the journey ahead. One paramedic monitored his vitals, while another applied pressure to the wound. "Stay with us, Mr. President," one of them urged, as the ambulance weaved through traffic, escorted by a convoy of police vehicles clearing the way. News of the incident spread like wildfire. Media outlets across the globe interrupted regular programming to cover the breaking news. Social media was ablaze with speculation, prayers, and conspiracy theories. Everyone wanted to know the same thing. Would Donald Trump survive this attack? At the hospital, a team of the best surgeons and medical staff had been assembled and were waiting. As soon as the ambulance arrived, Trump was rushed into surgery. The doctors knew they were racing against time. The bullet had caused significant damage, and it was unclear how much internal bleeding there was. As the surgeons worked outside the hospital, a crowd began to gather. Supporters, reporters, and curious onlookers all wanted updates. The scene was chaotic, with media vans parked haphazardly and journalists jostling for space to deliver live updates. Security around the hospital was tightened. Police set up barricades and patrolled the perimeter, ensuring no unauthorized person could get close. Inside, the atmosphere was tense. Trump's family had arrived, their faces pale and drawn. They waited in a private room, clinging to hope and each other for support. Hours passed with no word from the operating room. The nation held its breath, the suspense palpable. Finally, a spokesperson for the hospital appeared. Cameras flashed, and microphones were thrust forward. Former President Donald Trump has undergone surgery. He remains in critical condition, but the medical team is doing everything possible. We will provide further updates as they become available, the spokesperson said before quickly retreating back inside. The statement did little to quell the anxiety. Speculation continued to run rampant. Who had done this, and why? As investigators worked to piece together the events leading up to the shooting, the world watched and waited. The suspect, identified as David Reynolds, had been apprehended at the scene. Reynolds was quickly taken into custody and interrogated by law enforcement. His motives were unclear, but his social media history revealed a deep-seated animosity towards Trump, fueled by conspiracy theories and political rhetoric. Authorities delved into his background, searching for any clues that might explain his actions. As the hours turned into days, Trump's condition remained touch and go. The medical team provided regular updates, cautiously optimistic but realistic about the challenges ahead. Trump's family issued a statement thanking supporters for their prayers and well wishes, asking for continued privacy during this trying time. Across the country, public vigils were held. Supporters lit candles and prayed for Trump's recovery, their faces illuminated by flickering flames. The nation, despite its deep divisions, found itself united in this moment of crisis. Political leaders from both sides of the aisle condemned the attack and called for unity. "This is a time for us to come together as Americans," one senator said. "Violence has no place in our society, and we must stand united against such acts of terror." Internationally, world leaders expressed their shock and concern. Messages of support came from allies and adversaries alike, underscoring the global impact of the event. As the days passed, the nation remained on edge. The hospital continued to release updates, and slowly, the news began to improve. Trump's condition stabilized, and he was moved out of intensive care. The road to recovery would be long and arduous, but the immediate danger had passed. The assassination attempt on Donald Trump was a stark reminder of the volatility of the current political climate. It highlighted the need for increased security measures and the importance of addressing the root causes of such extreme actions. For now, the nation could breathe a small sigh of relief, but the reverberations of that fateful day would be felt for a long time to come. Details emerge. Suspect apprehended in Trump shooting. The nation remained in a state of shock after the shooting of former President Donald Trump. As the initial chaos began to settle, the focus shifted to understanding who was behind the attack and what motivated such a brazen act. Authorities wasted no time in apprehending the suspect, identified as David Reynolds, at the scene of the crime. David Reynolds, a man in his late 30s, had a history that investigators quickly began to unravel. A loner with a checkered past, Reynolds had been on the radar of local law enforcement for various minor offenses, but nothing that suggested he was capable of such a violent act. As details emerged, a disturbing picture began to form. Reynolds had a troubled upbringing, marked by family instability and frequent moves. His early life was marred by academic struggles and behavioral issues, leading to a pattern of isolation and resentment. Despite these challenges, there were no signs that he would one day attempt to assassinate a former president. Investigators delved into Reynolds' social media accounts and online activity. What they found was a treasure trove of hate-filled rants and conspiracy theories. Over the years, Reynolds had become deeply immersed in various online communities that propagated extreme political ideologies and baseless conspiracies. His posts revealed a growing obsession with Donald Trump, whom he blamed for many of the nation's problems. Friends and acquaintances described Reynolds as a quiet but increasingly agitated individual. He had lost his job during the pandemic and struggled to find steady employment afterward. His financial troubles and feelings of disenfranchisement seemed to fuel his radicalization. Reynolds believed he was part of a larger movement to save the country, convinced that drastic actions were necessary. As the FBI and local authorities pieced together his movements in the days leading up to the shooting, it became clear that Reynolds had meticulously planned the attack. He had scouted the venue several times, noting security patterns and looking for vulnerabilities. The high-powered rifle he used had been purchased legally, raising questions about gun control and background checks. The investigation revealed that Reynolds had acted alone. Despite his extensive online interactions with like-minded individuals, there was no evidence to suggest that he had any accomplices or that the attack was part of a larger conspiracy. This finding provided some relief, but the fact that a single individual could cause so much havoc was deeply unsettling. As news of Reynolds' background and motive spread, reactions were mixed. Some saw him as a product of a deeply divided society, where misinformation and extremist ideologies could flourish unchecked. Others viewed him as an aberration, a disturbed individual who had taken his grievances to a deadly extreme. In the political arena, the shooting prompted urgent discussions about security and the rhetoric that had come to dominate public discourse. Lawmakers from both parties called for a toning down of inflammatory language and a return to civility. There were also renewed calls for more stringent gun control measures, with debates about background checks and the accessibility of firearms reigniting across the country. Meanwhile, Trump remained in the hospital, his condition slowly improving. The former president's family released periodic updates, thanking the medical staff for their tireless efforts and the public for their continued support. Despite the gravity of the situation, Trump's resilience shone through. His determination to recover and his refusal to be silenced by violence became a rallying point for his supporters. As the investigation continued, media outlets provided extensive coverage, analyzing every aspect of Reynolds' life and the broader implications of the attack. Experts in psychology and criminology weighed in, discussing the factors that could drive someone to commit such a heinous act. The consensus was clear. A combination of personal grievances, societal influences, and easy access to weapons had created a perfect storm. Public opinion was divided. Some saw the attack as a symptom of a fractured nation, a wake-up call to address the underlying issues of political polarization and social alienation. Others feared that such incidents would become more common, a grim reflection of the times. In response to the shooting, security measures were heightened for all public officials. The Secret Service and other protective agencies reviewed their protocols, looking for ways to prevent similar incidents in the future. Public events were scrutinized more closely, and attendees faced increased security checks. As the nation grappled with the aftermath of the attack, one thing was clear: the path to healing would be long and complex. The shooting of Donald Trump was not just an isolated act of violence, it was a mirror reflecting deeper societal issues that needed to be addressed. In the days that followed, vigils continued to be held, and messages of support poured in from around the world. The global reaction underscored the significance of the event and the widespread impact of Trump's legacy, both positive and negative. The story of David Reynolds, a man driven to the brink by a combination of personal failures and societal influences, became a cautionary tale. It highlighted the dangers of unchecked rhetoric, the consequences of social alienation, and the critical need for comprehensive mental health support and responsible gun laws. As Trump's health stabilized and the immediate threat passed, the nation began the difficult process of reflection and recovery. The attack had left an indelible mark on the country, serving as a sobering reminder of the work that lay ahead to bridge divides and build a more united and resilient society. Nation in shock as Trump remains in critical condition. The news of former President Donald Trump's shooting spread like wildfire, plunging the nation into a state of shock. As details emerged and updates on Trump's condition remained scarce, anxiety gripped the American public. Trump lay in critical condition at the hospital, with the medical team working tirelessly to save his life. Across the country, people were glued to their televisions and smartphones, desperate for any news about Trump's health. Vigils sprang up in cities and towns, with supporters gathering to pray for his recovery. Candles were lit, and signs with messages of hope and solidarity were held high. The nation, despite its deep political divisions, seemed to unite in concern for the former president. In Washington, D.C., the atmosphere was tense. The halls of Congress buzzed with conversations about the attack and its implications. Lawmakers from both sides of the aisle expressed their shock and condemnation. President Joe Biden addressed the nation from the White House, urging calm and unity. "This is a time for us to come together," he said. "Violence has no place in our democracy. We must stand united against such acts of terror." Meanwhile, security around government buildings and public figures was intensified. The Secret Service and other protective agencies reviewed their protocols and increased their presence at public events. The attack on Trump had exposed vulnerabilities that needed to be addressed to ensure the safety of all public officials. In the midst of this turmoil, Trump's family remained by his side. Melania Trump, his children, and close advisors kept a vigil at the hospital. They issued periodic statements, thanking the public for their prayers and support. "We are deeply grateful for the outpouring of love and support from people around the world," Ivanka Trump said in a televised statement. "We ask for your continued prayers as we navigate this difficult time." The medical team at the hospital provided regular updates, but the news was often somber. "Mr. Trump remains in critical condition," the lead surgeon said during one briefing. "We are doing everything we can, but the next 48 hours will be crucial." The gravity of the situation was not lost on anyone. The nation held its breath, hoping for a miracle. The media covered every angle of the story, from the background of the shooter, David Reynolds, to the security lapses that allowed the attack to happen. Analysts debated the broader implications of the event, discussing the rise of political violence and the need for greater unity and discourse. Talk shows and opinion pieces reflected the shock and fear that had gripped the nation. As days turned into weeks, the country remained on edge. The hospital became a focal point, with supporters gathering outside, holding signs that read, "Pray for Trump," and "Stay strong." Their presence was a testament to the former president's enduring influence and the deep emotional connection he had with his base. Public figures and celebrities also weighed in, expressing their support and calling for peace. "We must reject violence and come together as a nation," said Oprah Winfrey in a social media post. "My thoughts and prayers are with President Trump and his family." Similar messages echoed across the internet, highlighting the widespread impact of the attack. In the political realm, the shooting prompted urgent discussions about security, rhetoric, and the state of the nation. Lawmakers proposed new measures to protect public figures and increase penalties for acts of political violence. There were calls for a return to civility and a reduction in inflammatory language that could incite violence. The attack also reignited the gun control debate. Advocates for stricter gun laws pointed to the ease with which Reynolds had obtained his weapon and the devastating consequences. Opponents argued for the protection of Second Amendment rights, but acknowledged the need for better mental health support and measures to prevent individuals with violent tendencies from accessing firearms. As the investigation into Reynolds' background continued, more details emerged about his radicalization and motivations. It became clear that he had been influenced by extreme political rhetoric and conspiracy theories. This finding sparked further debates about the role of social media and online platforms in spreading dangerous ideologies. Despite the gravity of the situation, there were glimmers of hope. The medical team reported small signs of improvement in Trump's condition. "We are cautiously optimistic," the lead surgeon said during a press briefing. Mr. Trump is responding to treatment, but he still has a long road to recovery. The news was a beacon of hope for supporters and the nation at large. As Trump slowly stabilized, the focus began to shift towards healing and moving forward. The attack had left an indelible mark on the nation, but it also highlighted the resilience and unity that could emerge in times of crisis. Communities across the country organized events to promote dialogue and understanding, hoping to bridge the divides that had fueled such violence. The nation watched and waited, hoping for more positive updates on Trump's condition. The former president's recovery became a symbol of the country's ability to overcome adversity and stand strong in the face of challenges. In the weeks and months to come, the lessons learned from this dark chapter would shape the nation's approach to security, discourse, and unity. The attack on Donald Trump was a stark reminder of the fragility of democracy and the importance of safeguarding it against violence and hatred. As the nation grappled with the aftermath, there was a renewed commitment to building a more inclusive, respectful, and resilient society. The road ahead was uncertain, but the resolve to emerge stronger and more united was clear. World leaders react to Trump's shooting. The shocking news of the shooting of former President Donald Trump reverberated around the globe. World leaders responded swiftly, expressing their condolences, support, and condemnation of the attack. The event was not only an assault on a former U.S. president, but also a grim reminder of the fragile state of global political stability. In London, Prime Minister Boris Johnson called an emergency press conference. "The news of the attack on Donald Trump is deeply disturbing," Johnson said, his face grave. "We stand with the United States in this dark hour and hope for a swift recovery for Mr. Trump. Political violence is never acceptable, and we must all work together to combat it." Across the channel, French President Emmanuel Macron echoed similar sentiments. "I am shocked and saddened by the news of the attack on former President Trump," Macron stated. France stands in solidarity with the American people. "Violence against political figures undermines the very foundations of our democracies." German Chancellor Angela Merkel also expressed her concern and support. "Our thoughts are with Donald Trump and his family during this difficult time," Merkel said in a brief statement. "Such acts of violence have no place in our societies. We must remain vigilant and united against extremism." In Russia, President Vladimir Putin sent a message of support. Despite the often contentious relationship between Trump and the Russian government, "We strongly condemn the attack on Donald Trump," Putin said in a televised address. "Our prayers are with him for a full recovery. Violence in politics is a dangerous path that benefits no one." Chinese President Xi Jinping, in a rare direct statement on a U.S. domestic issue, also weighed in. "We express our sincere hope for the recovery of former President Trump," Xi said. "China stands firmly against any form of political violence. Stability and peace are paramount for all nations." The Vatican released a statement from Pope Francis, who called for prayers for Trump's recovery and peace in the United States. "I am deeply saddened by the news of the attack on former President Trump," the Pope said. "I pray for his swift healing and for the American people to find unity and peace during these troubling times." In Canada, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau offered his sympathies. "Our hearts go out to Donald Trump and his family," Trudeau said. "This attack is a reminder of the threats that political leaders face. We must all work to create a safer and more respectful political environment." Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison also condemned the attack. "We are shocked by the news of the shooting of former President Trump," Morrison said. "Australia stands with our American allies and friends. Violence has no place in our democratic processes." Other leaders from around the world, including those from India, Japan, Brazil, and South Africa, issued statements condemning the attack and expressing their hopes for Trump's recovery. The global outpouring of support highlighted the significant impact Trump had on the international stage, regardless of the varied opinions about his policies and leadership style. International media covered the story extensively, analyzing the implications of the attack on global politics. Analysts discussed how the shooting could affect U.S. foreign policy and its relations with other countries. The consensus was clear. The attack on Trump was not just an American issue but a global concern. It symbolized the broader dangers of political violence. Back in the United States, these reactions were welcomed by many as a sign of international solidarity. However, the focus remained on Trump's recovery and the ongoing investigation into the motives behind the attack. Law enforcement agencies collaborated with international counterparts to gather any relevant information on the shooter, David Reynolds, and his connections. Diplomats and foreign leaders reached out to their American counterparts, offering assistance and expressing their commitment to combating political violence. The attack sparked discussions at international forums, including the United Nations. Delegates emphasized the need for global cooperation in addressing the root causes of extremism and political violence. The United States allies reaffirmed their support for American democracy and its institutions. NATO members in particular emphasized the importance of unity and resilience in the face of such threats. An attack on a democratic leader is an attack on democracy itself, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said. "We must stand united against those who seek to undermine our values and institutions." In the days following the attack, global leaders continued to monitor Trump's condition, hoping for positive news. The incident prompted many to reflect on their own security measures and the broader implications of political violence in their countries. Discussions ranged from tightening security protocols for public figures to addressing the spread of extremist ideologies through social media and other platforms. As Trump's condition began to stabilize, the international community remained engaged, offering support and cooperation. The incident served as a wake-up call, reminding world leaders of the vulnerabilities faced by political figures and the need for collective action to safeguard democracy. The global reaction to Trump's shooting underscored the interconnectedness of modern politics. It highlighted the shared challenges and responsibilities of nations in ensuring the safety and security of their leaders and citizens. The event also reinforced the importance of dialogue, understanding, and cooperation in addressing the complex issues that give rise to political violence. While the road to recovery for Trump and the healing process for the nation would be long, the overwhelming support from the international community provided a glimmer of hope. It demonstrated that, despite differences and challenges, there was a common commitment to upholding the principles of democracy, peace, and respect for all individuals. Security measures intensified nationwide following Trump attack. In the wake of the shocking attack on former President Donald Trump, security measures were dramatically intensified across the United States. The incident had exposed vulnerabilities in the protection of public figures, prompting a swift and comprehensive response from federal, state, and local authorities. The goal was clear: to prevent any future attempts on the lives of political leaders and to restore a sense of safety and security. The Secret Service, responsible for the protection of current and former presidents, was the first to act. An immediate review of their protocols was ordered, and adjustments were made to enhance the security detail for Trump and other former presidents. This included increasing the number of agents assigned to their protection, employing more advanced surveillance technology, and ensuring secure transport routes for all public appearances. "Security is our top priority," said the director of the Secret Service in a press briefing. "We are implementing additional measures to ensure the safety of all individuals under our protection. We will not tolerate any threats against our leaders." The attack also led to heightened security measures for current President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. The White House increased its security perimeter, with additional checkpoints and barriers erected around the complex. Military presence was visibly increased, with National Guard units patrolling the area and assisting with crowd control during public events. State governments followed suit, bolstering security for their governors and other high-ranking officials. In California, Governor Gavin Newsom's security detail was expanded, and similar actions were taken in states across the nation. Public events, town halls, and political rallies now featured more stringent security checks, including metal detectors and bag inspections. Local law enforcement agencies were instructed to increase their vigilance. Police departments across the country received additional training on how to handle threats against public figures and manage large crowds safely. Coordination between federal, state, and local agencies was strengthened to ensure a unified and effective response to any potential threats. The U.S. Capitol, a symbol of American democracy, saw some of the most significant changes. Following the attack, the Capitol Police implemented a series of new security measures. Fencing and barriers were reinforced around the Capitol complex, and access points were more tightly controlled. Surveillance systems were upgraded, and additional personnel were deployed to monitor and respond to any suspicious activities. The attack also reignited the debate on gun control. Lawmakers pushed for more rigorous background checks and restrictions on firearm purchases. The fact that David Reynolds, the shooter, had legally acquired the weapon used in the attack underscored the need for stricter regulations. "We need to prevent dangerous individuals from obtaining firearms," said a senator advocating for reform. This attack is a stark reminder of the urgent need for common-sense gun laws. The private sector also took action. Event organizers and venues hosting large gatherings reviewed their security protocols. Many adopted more comprehensive measures, such as hiring additional security personnel and utilizing advanced scanning technology. Companies specializing in security services saw a surge in demand, as businesses and organizations sought to ensure the safety of their clients and attendees. In schools and universities, discussions about security intensified. Administrators reviewed their emergency plans and conducted drills to prepare for potential threats. The Department of Education issued guidelines for enhancing school safety, emphasizing the importance of preparedness and the need for robust security measures. The tech industry played a crucial role as well. Social media platforms and online communities came under scrutiny for their role in spreading extremist ideologies. Companies like Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube pledged to crack down on hate speech and violent content. They introduced stricter content moderation policies and expanded their efforts to identify and remove dangerous posts and accounts. The FBI and Department of Homeland Security increased their monitoring of online activities, particularly focusing on forums and groups known for promoting extremist views. The agencies worked to identify individuals who might pose a threat and prevent them from acting on their violent intentions. Collaboration with international intelligence agencies was also intensified to address the global nature of online radicalization. In the face of these heightened security measures, public reaction was mixed. Many people welcomed the increased protections, feeling reassured that steps were being taken to prevent further violence. Others expressed concerns about the potential infringement on civil liberties and the balance between security and privacy. Civil rights groups voiced their worries about the implications of intensified surveillance and the potential for overreach by law enforcement. They called for transparency and accountability in the implementation of new security measures. While we understand the need for increased security, we must ensure that it does not come at the expense of our fundamental rights and freedoms, said a representative from a prominent civil liberties organization. Despite these concerns, the consensus was clear. The attack on Donald Trump had fundamentally changed the landscape of security in the United States. The event underscored the necessity of protecting public figures and maintaining the integrity of democratic processes. As the nation adjusted to these new security realities, there was a collective resolve to address the root causes of political violence. This included tackling the divisive rhetoric that had become prevalent in public discourse and fostering a culture of respect and understanding. Educational programs aimed at promoting civic engagement and countering extremist ideologies gained support, with the goal of building a more inclusive and resilient society. The attack on Trump was a stark reminder of the threats faced by political leaders and the importance of vigilance and preparedness. While the road to healing and ensuring long-term security was long, the immediate response demonstrated the nation's commitment to safeguarding its democracy and protecting its leaders. In the aftermath of the attack, the focus remained on unity and resilience. The increased security measures were a testament to the nation's determination to stand against violence and uphold the values of democracy. As Trump continued his recovery, the strengthened security protocols served as a crucial step in preventing future attacks and ensuring the safety of all public figures. Trump family released a statement on former president's condition. In the days following the attack on former President Donald Trump, the nation remained in a state of anxious anticipation. The Trump family, who had been by his side since the incident, finally released a comprehensive statement. The statement, issued jointly by Melania Trump and Trump's children, Donald Jr., Ivanka, Eric, Tiffany, and Barron, was released through the family's official channels. It began with an expression of gratitude for the overwhelming support and prayers they had received from people around the world. "We are deeply touched by the outpouring of love and concern for our father," the statement read. "Your prayers and messages have given us strength during these incredibly difficult days." The family detailed the former president's condition, acknowledging that while he remained in critical condition, there were signs of improvement. "Our father is a fighter, and we are hopeful," they wrote. "He has shown remarkable resilience and is receiving the best possible care from his medical team. The road to recovery will be long, but we are confident in his strength and determination." The statement provided specifics about the injuries Trump had sustained and the medical interventions that had been performed. Following the attack, our father was rushed to the hospital where he underwent emergency surgery. He has since been stabilized, but remains under close observation. The medical team is monitoring him around the clock, and we are deeply grateful for their dedication and expertise. In addition to updates on Trump's physical health, the family shared their emotional journey. "This has been the most challenging time for us," Melania Trump admitted. "Seeing our father in such a vulnerable state has been heart-wrenching, but his courage inspires us every day. We draw strength from each other and from the support of so many people who care about him." The statement also addressed the impact of the attack on the broader Trump family. "This event has shaken us to our core, but it has also brought us closer together," Ivanka Trump noted. "We are united in our love for our father and our commitment to supporting him through his recovery. Our family has always been strong, and we will get through this together." Eric Trump highlighted the importance of family unity during such crises. "In times of adversity, family is everything," he said. "We are grateful for the unwavering support we have for each other and from our friends and supporters. This has been a powerful reminder of the importance of standing by those you love." The statement concluded with a message of hope and resilience. "Our father has always been a symbol of strength and perseverance," Donald Trump Jr. wrote. "We believe in his ability to overcome this challenge and return stronger than ever. We ask for your continued prayers and support as he continues his fight for recovery. As the statement circulated, it was met with an outpouring of empathy and solidarity from the public and political figures alike. Messages of support flooded in from around the world. People expressed their hope for Trump's swift recovery and offered their thoughts and prayers to the family. Political allies and even some former opponents expressed their support, wishing President Trump a speedy recovery, tweeted Senator Lindsey Graham. My thoughts are with him and his family during this difficult time. Former President Barack Obama also issued a statement. Michelle and I extend our best wishes to Donald Trump for a quick and full recovery. Our thoughts are with his family. The medical community continued to provide updates. They were cautiously optimistic about Trump's progress. While Mr. Trump remains in critical condition, his response to treatment has been encouraging, said Dr. Julia Mason, the lead surgeon on Trump's case. We are taking it one day at a time and are hopeful for continued improvements. The public's response to the Trump family's statement underscored the nation's collective anxiety and hope. Vigils continued to be held across the country, with people gathering to pray for Trump's recovery and to show their support for the family. These gatherings were marked by a sense of unity. They transcended political divides. Media coverage of the statement was extensive, with news outlets analyzing its content and implications. Commentators noted the Trump family's resilience. They also remarked on the former president's symbolic role as a figure of strength for his supporters. The statement was seen as a rallying call, not just for Trump's recovery, but for the nation to come together. In the weeks following the statement, the focus remained on Trump's health and the ongoing investigation into the attack. The Trump family continued to provide periodic updates. They maintained a balance of transparency and privacy. Their communications were marked by a tone of gratitude and hope, reflecting their belief in Trump's eventual recovery. As Trump's condition slowly improved, the family began to discuss plans for the future. Our father is determined to recover and to continue his work, Ivanka Trump stated in a subsequent update. He has always been a fighter, and he is not giving up now. The Trump family's handling of the situation was widely praised for its dignity and grace under pressure. Their statements and public appearances served to reassure Trump's supporters and to emphasize the importance of unity and resilience in the face of crisis. The attack on Donald Trump had been a deeply traumatic event, but it also brought to the forefront the strength of familial bonds and the capacity for national solidarity. The Trump family's response highlighted the power of hope and the importance of community support. In the months and years that followed, the Trump family's experience during this crisis would be remembered as a testament to their resilience. It also underscored the enduring strength of their familial bonds. Their ability to navigate such a difficult period with grace and determination served as an inspiration to many. It emphasized the profound impact of love and support in the face of adversity.